You guys still can't hear me? Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me now? Hello? Somebody let me know if you can hear me. Sound is on now. Oh, good. Well then, I don't have to restart it. There's still something wrong with the phone, but we'll just go with it. See what happens. Wow. Woohoo, huh? And remember, I'm not a techie guy. I don't know what the heck I'm doing when it comes to technology. So can you now? You guys can hear me okay? Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me? Hello, hello. Can you guys hear me? Confirm, confirm. Hello. Can you guys hear me? Yes. Okay. Well, then we're good to go. Yes, I can hear you. Wow. There you go. Look at that. The guy who doesn't know about computers. You know, it's just not my era, but there's some people who are older who are good at computers. Okay. Well, first, if you guys want to ask any questions right off the bat, you're totally welcome to. That's what this is really all about. So if you guys got some questions, you can go ahead and fire away. Otherwise, we'll do a little chat here. Sorry about any lack of quality. I'm just using the problem is that it's kind of broken. I broke my tripod. Okay, let's read your questions and kind of get rolling here. Jiminy Christmas, look at this thing. It's not. Okay. Sorry. Well, we'll see how it goes. Okay, let's go into. So let's see. Somebody's called Heidi Marie Garby says, I received my Lourdes Hydrofix last week. So I'm just beginning to drink the water. It is very highly charged water. And that's true. And I feel it is a spiritual initiation to drink. I know it's kind of weird to say that, but I kind of feel similarly. David Garcia says, was just drinking my hydrogen water as I just got the live notification. Well, look at that. Okay, guys, do you guys want to talk mostly about water and water purity, hydrogen, diet, or specific protocols on how to use the hydrogen? What exactly? Because I want to go kind of in the direction that you guys want to talk about first, and then we'll kind of go from there. And if the camera's crooked, I apologize. I'm trying to fix it, but like I said, this old tripod is probably not the best. Here we go. I'm trying to straighten it out there. Okay, hydrogen advanced protocols, says Sunny D. Advanced protocols. Well, the first thing you have to know is, well, the first thing I'll say is no medical advice. I'm not going to give any medical advice today. I'm not going to make any medical claims. And I'm not going to make any claims for or against any product or products. Okay, so as far as protocols, the first thing I always say, the protocol is really going to depend on what your issues are. But we're going to start with just hydrogen. Somebody said, Ela says, would love to hear more about the diet and whether hydrogen water can help with transition away from food. If you're thinking you're going to not eat food, that's not going to happen. But we could talk about some fasting protocols that I've created. So the first thing about hydrogen is you have to do something, first of all, that's realistic. And then Reliable Andrew says, Greg, do you get or recommend optimal hours for sleep? We can go into that too. So let's see here. Let's just talk briefly first about some basic hydrogen protocols. Let's just talk about basics, and then we can, go into deeper stuff depending on what direction you guys want to go. So the first thing is, remember that you're going to be utilizing water as a carrier for the gas. And also remember with the hydrogen protocol, this is something that's been very important to me. Do not, in my opinion, and I should go grab some of this stuff. Okay, if I have to, I'll go grab it later. In my opinion, it's very important that the protocols that I'm going to talk about a little bit, you want to do them with the right equipment, and definitely not do a lot of these protocols with the wrong equipment or the wrong ways of making hydrogen. The only reason I say this is because I've seen people copy my protocols but use different equipment. And I've seen some pretty terrible things happen. I'm actually kind of surprised how bad it was or is. And since then, I have seen certain lab reports, and now it makes sense as to why doing hydrogen a certain way can be, potentially not a good idea. So first of all, how you make the hydrogen and also how you purify your water matters. But both things matter, because if you're quote unquote directly electrolyzing water, that's going to cause a lot of problems if the water has certain impurities. So that's why my protocols are very specific. Please don't try to modify these. They're just going to you're going to cause harm to yourself potentially, and that's something that I really don't want to see. So proper equipment for carbon distillation, for basically super clean water. I know that a lot of people think that reverse osmosis is going to be good enough, or carbon filters are good enough. They're not going to be good enough to like completely purify your water. And that's why I recommend carbon distillation. But more importantly is actually the hydrogen generator that I use or recommend, the Lourdes Hydrofix, because that one doesn't put electricity through the water that you're going to drink, which means that you could technically use tap water, you could use reverse osmosis water or normal filtered water, and it's not going to produce any more contaminants in it or make them worse. So that's, so that really, in my opinion, matters. I think if you haven't seen the protocols, one of the protocols, I'll tell you the one that I like to use, and I think it's one of my favorites, obviously. And again, there's protocols for different things. Remember, there's different protocols for the eyes, the lungs, the brain. The basic hydrogen protocol based on the equipment is, and if you have healthy kidneys and if you're not on certain pharmaceuticals, this is why it's very difficult to just give out a blanket protocol. But I would just say drink in the mornings, empty stomach. One of the protocols, as many of you probably know, is you always want to clean your mouth, meaning just brush your teeth, no toothpaste. Brush your teeth, inner surfaces of your mouth. It's always the first thing. And then I like to drink a total of 1 liter in the morning. The minimum you're going to need is half a liter. And that's a really perfect way to get your day started. I like to add minerals to it. I use the Shilajit. If you guys want to know about that, you can comment there below and I'll tell you where I get mine and discount codes if you guys want. Then 20 to 30 minutes later, that's when you can go and eat. You're going to do the same thing before lunch. Empty stomach, half a liter to 1 liter. And then again, empty stomach before dinner, half a liter to 1 liter. So a total amount of water that you'll be drinking throughout the day. You really want a absolute minimum of 1.5 liters, but really it's going to be between 1.5 to 3 liters. 3 liters being absolutely maximum. Some of it can depend on your body weight. And then as far as hydrogen gas inhalation, again, really important to do the right equipment for that too. And I recommend drinking the water before you do the inhalation if you want to enhance the inhalation. So there's your basic, quote unquote, kind of hydrogen protocol. Let's go through more of these questions and then we'll keep moving forward here. Okay. Reliable Andrew says, Greg, do you get or recommend optimal hours for sleep? Yeah, I mean, obviously sleep is extremely important. One of my other protocols, so here's another secret for you guys, is inhaling the hydrogen before you go to bed. If you really want, you can even inhale it while you sleep, but inhaling the hydrogen before you go to bed, minimum of 30 minutes, 90 minutes is a really good number. And that's actually going to enhance your sleep and your healing while you're sleeping. So that's another important one. Let's see. Somebody said, Heidi Marie Garby says, you said in a podcast that we are entering the Aquarian age, which is the age of water. It's the knowledge of water, yes. I'm most interested in the spiritual effects of the hydrogen water. Well, that's going to be I don't know if I should go into that one right now. I don't know if that's what people were expecting. If more people are interested in that, we can talk more about that. But yes, in my personal opinion, I can explain why and the depths of it. It would be a very long conversation, but simply put, hydrogen to me is a connection to the universe, to the stars. They're all made of hydrogen. The majority of the universe is made of hydrogen. It's kind of like your connection to water in the universe. That's part of the reason on the spiritual front that they would baptize in water. And it had to do with, and remember what it says even in ancient scripture, that it opens up the heavens. And remember that the word hydrogen means that which becomes water. By the way, thanks for all the thumbs up, guys. I saw that Well, there's like 8 of them, but there's 25 people in here, so thank you for all that. Okay. Angie wants to know my age. Let's see. Progressing My Way says, would you still make reverse osmosis water hydrogenated? Depending on the equipment, yes, of course. I mean, if that's the only option you have, if you have the right equipment, again, like the one that I use, the electricity never touches the water. I don't like, so this is what I don't like due to impurities. I don't like when electricity directly touches the water, and this is all because of data, which means that's why I don't like Kangens, that's why I don't like the little hydrogen bottles. I don't like chemical reactions like the hydrogen tablets, again, due to impurities, just not a fan of it. I've seen lab tests on that also. There's clearly heavy metals in there. And I just, I don't care when somebody tries to tell me, oh, but the healthy, they're healthy heavy metals. They're below a certain level. I'm like, no, I don't want any. And I'm going to encounter them in my life. And the last thing I want to do is take something for my health that on top of it has heavy metals. So, yeah, so I'm very, if you're using reverse osmosis water and the right hydrogen equipment, then yeah, it should be fine. In my opinion, at least to get hydrogen in you. Let's see. I don't know if it's that important to you guys, but I usually don't like to talk about age. Somebody was asking me my age. Mostly just because there's a science behind it. If you guys want me to explain to you the study that was done about it, but I literally don't think about it. And I try not to think about it. And I don't, and people are asking all the time. I mean, yeah. And if it's that important, I guess we can talk about it, but I don't think it's that important. David says, if you want to get real results, do you need to be drinking hydrogen water literally every time you drink water, or would 1 to 3 times a day be okay? Oh, 1 to 3 times a day would be fine. Like I was just saying on the protocol, if you do it before breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's going to be plenty. But you do have to look at the total amount. So here's the key about hydrogen. You basically want what we would call a certain amount of milligrams of hydrogen in the body. And that's really important. And I think people lose track of that because they're always looking at ppm or ORP, and these are really not the right things to look at. You really want to understand the milligrams. And to explain milligrams to you, you'd have to measure it in a 1 liter container. And the amount of hydrogen, let's say it was 1 ppm for the 1 liter, that would be equals 1 milligram of hydrogen. And in my opinion, you need at least more than 2 milligrams. My number personally is about 2.5 milligrams or greater of hydrogen, basically regularly every single day, which is one of the big reasons that you really need a good hydrogen generator, because you can't just drop a tablet each time. Again, it has to be super, super high purity in my opinion. And it gets really expensive, especially like the little bottles too. It just gets really expensive. If you get a good hydrogen generator, it's gonna last you a really long time. One of the issues with a lot of hydrogen machines that nobody's telling you about, or maybe because they just don't know, is that they have issues producing hydrogen for a long time. Machines are not very reliable. Most of them are coming out of China. I don't use any of the ones from China. For good reason. I mean, if you really think that China has our good health in their best interests, you might want to think about that. And so the hydrogen production goes down very quickly, whereas with the Hydrofix, it makes hydrogen for years and years and years and years due to their technology, which is highly unusual. But not many machines can do that. There is another machine that can do that actually. It's another Japanese machine, but it's over $30,000. And from everything that I looked at, I was a little surprised, but the Hydrofix is still better. So woohoo, we can get really good hydrogen for actually that's affordable on the regular. Okay, let's see here. Let's see where we are here. Lots of questions. We'll go through all your questions, guys. Okay, first one, Reliable Andrew says, Greg, you probably don't recommend dry fasting for a limited duration for any reason then. Actually, I do. I've done it. And when it comes to fasting, you guys have to learn to prepare your body. You don't just jump into a fast because you know it's going to deplete you of nutrients. So on my protocol, you have to load the body up with as many nutrients as possible. And remember that everybody's already running around deficient. So it's very hard to get all those nutrients up. And then you prepare for the fast. And then, of course, I highly recommend a hydrogen fast. And then if you do the dry fast, you can still inhale the hydrogen gas. That's one of my other secret techniques. So yeah, I'm not against dry fasting, but you have to be really cautious. Dry fasting can be it can be dangerous. So be cautious in that stuff. Eva Moreno says, do eat nut butters. Do eat nut butters. I don't know what that means, but I guess it's a statement. We'll move on to the next one. Boldy says, what with us with Strom tattoos? I don't know what that means. What with us with Strom tattoos? If you want to reiterate that question, I'll go back to it because it doesn't make any sense to me. If it makes sense to anybody else, let me know. Boldy says, ah ha ha ha. Okay, funny. Okay, Sunny D. Sunny D. I remember Sunny D when I was a kid. Sunny Delight. Probably not the best orange juice, right? Okay, so let's see. What's the question here? All the ways we can utilize our Lourdes Hydrofix hydrogen machine in addition to the basic drinking and inhalation. Okay, so I already talked about the inhalation. I talked about how to drink it. Food prep, pet use, plant. Wow, okay, a lot of questions. Oh my goodness. Okay, Sunny D. Maybe try to ask one at a time, but I just told you guys how I would use, quote unquote, the hydrogen water. The inhalation, again, it depends on the issues, but I like at least 90 minutes a day from the Hydrofix. As far as that machine, the amount it's making, the purity of it all, 90 minutes is a good number. It really depends on a lot of factors. A lot of the factors have to do with the issue that you're dealing with. If you're dealing with something like eye issues like cataracts, glaucoma, macular degeneration, the water part I already explained, but inhaling a lot would be very, very helpful, including things like you sit in front of the computer working, you can be inhaling. You can be inhaling while you're eating, believe it or not. You can inhale, try to basically inhale a lot is more often would be the thing that I would try to go with. And we can come back to some more of those questions, but let's see here. Eva says, what's your main protein you eat? Okay, Eva. That's here's a tricky question about protein. I'm going to pull up the computer here too, so that way you guys can, I remember a lot of things, but I rarely get it wrong, but I just want to have it all validated here for you guys because I read research about, you'd probably be shocked to find out that less protein consumption has been shown to have, basically people have longer lives, as crazy as that may sound. The reason is because I don't focus on protein, me personally. What I focus is on nutrients and minerals. And I don't want my body to be deficient in any of those. I don't hyper focus on protein, but if you want to know, like one of my protein sources that I really like is natto. Natto is that fermented bean from Japan. It's actually one of the best superfoods known to man. There's so many studies that the Japanese have done on natto, and it's super good for you. It's also a natural statin, so it naturally thins your blood out a little bit. The enzymes in it appear to be really good for breaking things down, including certain proteins, ironically, that you might not want. So the word protein is a very vague term. In my personal opinion, I'm not trying to be a jerk here, but in my personal opinion, it's kind of dumb or overused because we're made of proteins and there's so many different types. And to just use a blanket statement like, where do you get your protein? I always find that frustrating because people always talk about that, like you need more protein, eat more beef. But I really think that we should be focusing on nutrients. So very well-rounded nutrition. Again, getting all your vitamins and minerals are a really big one, in my opinion. Okay, let's see here. Let's see, what's the next one? Okay, HB said, someone asked a question, why not answer it? Oh, I thought I did. It is important, I'll answer. Somewhere else, oh, my age. All right, yeah, around 50. Okay, while looking much younger, why hide this? It's not about hiding it, HB. It's that, as I told you, there is research about this. And if you really want to know the research, I can share it with you guys. Just don't think I need to be talking about it because apparently, according to this research, it's not a good thing to think about it. I feel very young in my mind. I feel young in my body. So I rather just go with the way that I'm feeling rather than psychosomatically affecting myself, thinking that I should look older or that I should be older. And people get kind of prideful about it too, but whatever, we can go back to it. It's not a big deal. Okay, Heidi Marie Garby says, I'm only able to drink small amounts of water, which I do all day long. The water is highly charged because my BP spiked too high when I tried to drink a whole cup. Your blood pressure would definitely not go up from drinking hydrogen water. So if anything, it does the opposite. I've seen it bring people's blood pressure down, so that's kind of odd. But small amounts of water is not necessarily the best way to drink hydrogen. You're going to want to at least drink half a liter each time. And you don't have to chug it all at once, but you need to probably finish it within 3 minutes, maybe 5. I'd finish half a liter in about that amount of time in 1 cup. Okay, somebody says, what model of Vitamix do you have? Well, the Vitamix is a great blender. I mean, personally, if you guys have ever heard of a website called, what's the name of this blender? It's called void-system.com. And if you want a coupon for that one, it's Uprising144K is the code. And the reason I like that one is because it's a vacuum blender. It sucks the oxygen out of the blender so it doesn't oxidize the food, and actually maintains more nutrients. It's way better for you. There is actually data about it, which is very interesting. But the Vitamix, the reason I like using my Vitamix more is because it has a bigger pitcher. And I really prefer my vacuum blender. But the Vitamix I use, I don't remember what model it is. I mean, I could go grab it real quick. Let's see here. It would be model, and you know what? It's not on the front of it. It's a pretty new one though. I just recently bought it because it had a gigantic pitcher. So sorry, I don't. Model VM01858. So that probably doesn't tell you much, but this new model doesn't. It doesn't shake all over the place, which I kind of like actually. Okay, let's see here. Okay, Vitamix. Okay, Eva says, I meant, do you eat peanut butter or any nut butter? No, I don't. All my nuts, I just get them in their raw form. I prefer to get things in their raw form because I don't trust the way that they process food these days. So everything's very basic. What brand of natto do you use? Oh, a ton of them. I could go grab some if you guys want to see some of the packages I've got here, but it doesn't really matter to me. The biggest thing that I look for is, one, that it's not from China. I'm not trying to be mean, but I don't trust a lot of their stuff. And the only reason I don't trust it is because I've seen what they do with their, I've actually seen lab tests from all sorts of stuff from China. And what's surprising is how many people are using the hydrogen from China. And I don't trust it. But I tend, when it comes to their hydrogen, I just look at the data, and their data is just, in my personal opinion, totally wrong and not the very best thing. This is the one I have right now. This is the package of natto. Now, what you look for closely is, at least what I look for closely, look at that, there's a picture of Mount Fuji. But the biggest thing that I look for is that it's made in Japan. In fact, it says right here, product of Japan. And that's important to me because of how I've seen their lab tests too, and the Japanese have some of the cleanest stuff there is in the world. And they're the ones who basically created natto, so they make really good natto. Okay, let's see here. Where are we at here? Okay, CCM says, have you heard of the Axiom machine? Yes, I actually know the machine very well. What are your thoughts on how it compares to the Holy Hydrogen machine? It definitely doesn't compare at all. It's not even close. In fact, there's a clinic. So here's a really good example. There was a clinic that helps a lot of people who are sick, and they were using the Axiom, and they had people with certain medical conditions, and they were trying the machine, and it just really wasn't working very well. That's the reason they contacted me, because they kept saying, look, we heard about all this stuff in regards to hydrogen. We have this device, but we're not seeing any results. And they actually contacted me from seeing my videos, and they said, you know, what's going on here? And the guy was really great, actually. And basically, he ended up getting the Holy Hydrogen machine, and the results were completely different, completely dramatic. In fact, I've posted some of the stuff on my channel. People with certain skin disorders, the girl who had a stroke that couldn't walk, talk, feed herself, dress herself. So a lot of these type of things. So the differences are quite dramatic. And then he did his own little experiment. This was interesting in his clinic. He actually had the people using the Axiom sometimes, because these people come in regularly. And then sometimes they give him the Hydrofix. And he was doing that with all the people, but they didn't know the difference. And then he would ask them, he goes, so which one do you kind of feel better with when you're using it? And he said, all of them. It wasn't like 90% or 50%. He said, all of them said the Hydrofix. They said, we don't know why, but this one just feels better. There's a lot of things I don't like about the Axiom, and I don't want to say negative things about it, but I'm like to give facts, and it's always hard for me to give, in my opinion, certain information without people getting all weird about it. But one, I don't like sealed system units. And that's because the Japanese used to make them in the past, and they found that they tend to grow mold oftentimes in the long term. So because they're sealed, and then you can't see what's going on inside. Not to mention that if the membrane was to make, which I don't like their membranes either, it appears that they're using DuPont membranes. I found the Chinese company that actually sells that exact machine, which is where they source it from. In fact, they're telling people that it's made in America now, and I find that very disingenuous, but that's all them. Let them say whatever they want to try to. People try to hide the fact that their stuff is from China. And so anyway, the point is that I don't really care about all that. I just don't like the design. I don't like the sealed system. I don't like the fact that they use plated or coated metals. That's what China does. It's cheap and it won't last. That's the problem is, even if you think you're getting hydrogen, you may literally not be getting any hydrogen because the metal falls apart, especially with the amounts of hydrogen they claim to be making. That's another big problem. I've looked so much into hydrogen production and even had to learn about engineering that what I ultimately learned is when you make the hydrogen the way that they're claiming, and they're claiming some very outrageous hydrogen numbers, it doesn't appear that you can sustain that for very long, which means that probably in a year or two, your machine literally might not be making any hydrogen and you wouldn't even know it. Because in order to get it tested properly, I haven't found any places in the United States that are actually testing hydrogen properly. It's very difficult to test hydrogen. Even in Japan, they have to get the top people to do it. And ultimately, there's many problems with the whole Axiom thing. It doesn't make really good hydrogen water either. It's really more of a gas machine. But the way that it goes about doing it, I'm just not a fan at all. And the proof is in the pudding, as they would say, because that clinic, they really saw dramatic differences. And so I'm just not a fan. And if you want to get one, I mean, they're really cheap. You can get them really cheap on the internet over in Alibaba because that's where they source them from. They source them from China, and then a lot of companies are reselling these machines, a lot of Chinese machines at exorbitant prices. There was another one I did a video about. They sell the machines for $7,000 and they buy them for about $500. So I don't think it's very nice or very honest, but that's what people are doing. And of course, I'm just trying to help you guys by giving you all the information that I can find myself. So hopefully that answers your question. If it doesn't, ask it again, and then, we can get into it. Boldy says, I saw same light with female figure, but I lack continue of story so as well as male figure. Okay, I don't know what that all means, but we'll move on from that. Eva Moreno says, when you make the rice with hydrogen, does it still activate after cooking it? Well, no, not really. So basically, when you're cooking with it, they have found, the Japanese discovered there seems to be a little bit of a better flavor, better consistency. But hydrogen does appear to go into food. But obviously, if you steam it, if you cook it, you're going to lose a lot of it. And don't think that you can just put it in your food and then eat the food and think that you're getting all the hydrogen you need. The foundation to it is drinking the water, and then secondly is doing the hydrogen gas inhalation. That's all foundational before you go on to the next level. Okay, Not Work says, agree with being the age you feel. Yeah, in some of the research, basically what they're showing is that the more that you keep repeating something, and you don't know how many times I get asked my age, and I don't think about it, and the more that people keep asking me, and then when people make comments, especially people who know me, or I just saw some friends, how long ago? It was, I'd have to count the days. I think it's been 3-4 days ago that I hadn't seen for many, 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 many years. And I was shocked, to see them. They're great people. The first thing they told me, they're like, oh my God, you look the same. And they did not look the same, but I didn't want to say that, it's rude. But yeah, people are significantly changing. Like when you talk to people who maybe you went to high school with also or old friends, and it's pretty dramatic. People look quite different these days, but I mean, we all walk our path, and sometimes maybe we just get lucky too. Maybe I'm just lucky, but okay. Wes Gordon says, do you still use the Void vacuum lid for your meal prep? Yeah, that's what I mean. I love the vacuum blender from Void. I really, really like it, simply put. In fact, I think I'm going to want to take that to Japan and use that over there. But right now, when I make my smoothies, I'm making them there's many people who live here, so I share, and I got to make a lot of it. Okay, so I use the bigger one. Reliable Andrew says, Greg, what do you think about a sort of raw vegan keto kind of diet, low protein, higher fat like cacao butter, coconut milk for a limited period? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like I said, when it comes to diet, my really big thing. I mean, you can make different changes. I think there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, the Japanese, they have such wisdom about diet. To be quite honest, I think the whole world's confused. And I think that if they could follow the Japanese methods, I think it would be of great benefit to people. So they learn to eat with the seasons. They eat locally. They eat different colored foods also depending on the season and for different health benefits. They just have a lot of knowledge about that. Where America, it's always like counting calories, how much protein, keto this, or it's very different than the way that the Japanese. And I think that the Japanese diet has a lot of wisdom in it. I've noticed that they're really, really into food. They're great cooks. The way they grow it, they obviously live very long lives. They eat a lot of vegetables, some fruit. And then, of course, we got all the nuts, seeds, mushrooms. They eat rice. I eat rice. Some people are really against that because it's a carbohydrate, but they actually just came out with new data from Japan, actually, some research on rice. Quite good for you, actually. But of course, you want to limit, in my opinion, the amounts of it that you eat. Everything's about ratios, by the way. Can you imagine if you just had a big thing of rice and a little thing of vegetables? I'm more about big vegetables, small amounts of rice, and that's the way the Japanese do it. They usually have a plate, a lot of different variety of vegetables, a little bit of rice, and maybe some seaweed and like miso soup and stuff like that. But I don't think there's anything wrong with the diet you just mentioned. That's my opinion on that. Okay, let's see here. HB says, you can make your own nut butter. Yeah, I bet you can. I eat raw nuts myself. I also use a vacuum blender. It's great. The one thing about nuts that I really would prefer is also soaking them in water. Part of my protocols, depending on which protocol you're following, is I also like to consume food that has water in it. I'm not a huge fan of dried food. I try to limit it as much as possible because your GI system, oh, thanks for all the thumbs up. I just saw you guys gave more. The thing about dried food is that it pulls water out of you. And one of the secrets to my techniques is you want to introduce water. So you want to bring water and you want to bring fiber, nutrients, minerals. That's the way that I like to do it. Okay, Ella says, I agree, the vacuum blender is way better. It is better. And what's funny is you notice the taste. You can taste the difference, you can see the difference, and there's some data that really supports that it makes it different. But I think that if all you have is something like the Vitamix, I think it's fine, I do it, but I would prefer, I wish Vitamix made a vacuum blender system because their pitchers are so big, or I wish Void would make a bigger pitcher, one or the other. Ella says, I think you can get a conversion kit to make the Vitamix works as well. I have one, and it works with the smaller pitcher. It doesn't work with the big one. That's kind of been the problem. Okay, Focus Spocus says, hey, mister, the pills containing Natto, are they good? If so, what brand is the best? When it comes to that, I'm going to give you guys, I hope she's okay with it. I'm going to give you guys an email for anybody who wants Natto pills. There's a person that you can contact, and I'm trying to pull it up right now. I'm going to give you her email because they get it from Japan and they mix it with other enzymes. And to be quite honest, I think their product is really great. And so I'm going to give you guys her email, and the email is, oh, really? Come on. It won't give me your email because I already have it and it just makes the name pop up. Really? Oh, no. I tell you what, guys. Well, let me see here. Are you kidding me? I can't see the email address. Oh, you know what? If Angela's in the room, she said she might be in the room today. If she's in there, type your email, Angela, and people can see it. You can contact this woman called Angela, and she has contact to get these powerful Japanese enzymes that have natto in them. So, and then if she doesn't type it in here, you guys can email me and I'll send you her email. I'll find it. It's on this phone that I'm using right now for the video. That's part of the issue. Okay, let's see, next one. HB says, I have a Kuvings vacuum blender, but you can get a lid to use with your Vitamix if you have one. Yeah, I know, but I don't think it works with the big new pitcher that I got. Angie says, so glad I found your channel. Great. Thank you for that comment. I'm glad you did too. Sunny D says, how much natto daily do you recommend? So that's also going to depend. I'll tell you one thing. Let me grab the container so you guys can see it. This natto here. So you guys can see the size, because there are recommendations from Japan, and you're definitely going to want to be cautious about how much natto you eat. Believe it or not, you're like, what? I got to be cautious about it? You sure do. You sure do. Okay, so here's another package. See this one? Organic natto. See, because they're like, oh, what brand, what brand? They're all good, guys. As long as, I don't even look, I mean, I try to buy the organic stuff, but that's not really my main thing. I actually make sure they're from Japan. Like this one again, product of Japan. This one too. If they're made anywhere else, don't get them. But if you have no choice, I believe there's a place in New York that makes them. But here you go. These are just a few of the brands that I find. And then this is how big the little containers are. Do not consume more than 3 of these a day. That would be max. I typically only consume 1, maybe a maximum of 2. They thin your blood. If you're on statins, be very cautious. Doctors in Japan warn against this. Most doctors in America do not have a clue about this. No offense to them, but they don't tend to have a clue about a lot of things. And so, yeah, this would be, don't consume more than 3 of them would be my suggestion. I'm going to put it back in the freezer though, because that's how you keep them alive. It is a live food. So they tend to go in the freezer, and then I rotate them and then put them in the refrigerator little by little so they can thaw out and be ready to be eaten. All right, let's see what other questions you guys have. Let's see. Kiss the Degenerate says, to follow Sunny, is this the only brand you trust? In regards to, what did Sunny say? Natto? Well, no, all I said was there's actually numerous brands. The Japanese make a lot. I mean, to be honest, if you really want to get like the good, super good stuff, you can't even get it in America. In fact, it's even hard to find in Japan. There's a company that makes, like, it's expensive, but it's really good. They don't even package it in this type of stuff. They package it in like bamboo. It's pretty cool. I've seen it. Maybe in the future, maybe I'll go to one of those companies and you can see how they make them. It's pretty cool. Okay. Kiss the Degenerate says, oh, New York. Yeah, there's somebody in New York's making them, or some company. Focus says, where can we find your email address? My email address is, and anybody can type it up there so they can stay for everybody, but it's uprising144k@gmail.com. Okay, that's where you find it. Okay, Boldy says, was light you saw in special shape? I think they want to talk more about spiritual stuff, but right now I'm trying to focus on you guys' health. Yeah, I don't know what to answer that, other than it's like asking if the light from the sun comes in any specific shape. Looks like a dress, actually, and looks like a person with a dress made of light. Okay, Angie says, what are your thoughts on tofu? So there's a lot of misconceptions about tofu, guys. In fact, there was data that was presented a long time ago, and everybody keeps thinking it's so estrogenic, it's not good for you. And then it turns out that that data was wrong. And because what it ended up discovering, this is the great thing about research, it actually ended up showing that we have different types of receptors that we didn't know about before. Because see, I go off of the way that I look at the data. There's a lot of black and white type of stuff going on in America where they're just like, this is good, this is bad, just because, like, for example, somebody was saying, spinach is bad for you because it has oxalates. If you're going to start attacking food for things like that, you're never going to get to the answer, because it's going to be very confusing. You can attack meat, because it doesn't have fiber or whatever, or because it has parasites. Like, everybody's always attacking the little things that they can find, and you can pretty much find something wrong with just about everything. When it comes to, for example, trying to be a relatively healthy vegetarian, in my personal opinion, it's impossible without beans. It's just not going to happen without beans. Beans end up being like your meat in a lot of ways. And one of the things that's interesting about this is the Japanese consume a lot of tofu, a lot of soy, and there's been a lot of negative things about soy. And soy is basically a bean, and they use it in so many ways, like soy sauce. And by the way, soy sauce is alive. When it's made correctly, it's supposed to be fermented. They use soy in miso soup. Miso soup, again, alive, fermented. Tofu is basically beans. That's basically what it is. High protein, lots of benefits. In fact, they've used it in certain cancer research and shown positive effects on breast cancer. And so I'm not against soy. In fact, the Japanese consume so much of it. They consume so many vegetables and so much soy. Natto's soy, by the way, just so you know. Maybe you guys don't know this. Natto is the soybean in a fermented manner. And they live so long, and there's so many health benefits to it. So I go off of that rather than somebody trying to find something negative about it and then spread that all over the place, and then everybody listens to it and they're not doing any critical thinking. So my opinion is that it's actually quite good for you. I consume it quite often. I think natto is the best form, but I do consume tofu. I think tofu tastes really great. I'm not against beans. I think beans are extremely important and really healthy and not complicated. So that's my opinion. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's see here. Boldy says, sorry for curiosity. Thank you very much for these opinions. And Boldy, we can talk about it, but if everybody wants to talk about it, we can get into it. But to be quite honest, I think this is more of a day where people want to know more about health benefits. So I'm not trying to be rude. We can get into that some other time, or we can do it now if people are like, yeah, we want to hear about this, but that's a whole other subject. I don't want to alienate everybody else right now. Plodojed, I think that's the name, says, how important is semen retention? I would just say everything in balance. If you want to do it, I guess you can do it. Do I think that there's health benefits to it? It's kind of a tough one because most of the science doesn't show that it's necessarily that good. I think it's probably fine. Do I think it's a huge, huge, huge game changer? Not particularly, in my opinion, but I think clean water and hydrogen is way bigger game changer than that, than trying to, retain semen. Okay, next person says, Eva, do you eat anything with made either organic corn? I don't know if I understand your question, Eva. Do you eat anything with organic corn, I guess? I eat corn sometimes. Yeah, if that's what you're asking. Wes Gordon says, what ways can we monetarily support your channel and you? Wow, geez, Wes, that's very kind of you. Right now, and I used to have a kind of one of these GoFundMe things to help support all this research, but it became a huge problem because there's a lot of people after me and they were reporting me, if you can believe this, they were reporting me. I did this investigation that lasted almost a year. And after all that, they found that everything was fine. I wasn't doing anything wrong. But it wasted so much time, and I was like, I'm just not going to do this again. But I do have a link to, if people want to make donations to crypto. Yeah, using some discount codes is always helpful. If people want to do consults, I do consults directly with people. I think the big thing is just sharing the videos, subscribing. That really helps kind of pick up the channel. It's really helpful too, and mostly because I want the word to get out. I really want to honor the person who created this hydrogen machine because it's so special, and he did it for his daughter, and I just really believe that it's a very sad thing that she went through, but I believe that somehow she might have chosen that path, as crazy as that sounds, not her physically, but her spirit, for the betterment of others. And her father created this magnificent machine, and anything I can do to try to show what can help people in the world, I just think that's kind of one of my big motivators. When people try to do things from the heart and for the right reasons, that really motivates and inspires me. So one thing that people can do is write to different podcasters, because when you do podcasts, the word really gets out there. So I think that's a huge way that you can support my channel. So anybody you want to write to recommend me, I'm always grateful for that. And you can always, email me, and we can, if you're like, hey, are you okay with doing this show or that show? And usually I'm up for it. So, okay. So thank you for that, Wes. That was very kind of you. HB says, when I was microbiotic, they recommended eating spinach only a few times a week because of the oxalates. Eat spinach either with tofu or cheese. They neutralize the oxalates. I mean, for oxalate neutralization, we already showed that hydrogen's really good at that. proper levels of calcium, which means not having any deficiencies. So I always talk about that. And then drinking enough water. I don't think it's the end of the world, but people tend to really blow that up out of proportion. I've been doing it for a long time. Okay, Catherine says, is there a difference between natto and seitan? Seitan? Let me see here. And I am sure she's not talking about Satan. Let's see. Because I've never heard of seitan. Let's see. Seitan is a high protein, chewy, plant-based meat alternative made with wheat. Yeah, I think there's a huge difference. You know, sadly, I'm not a huge fan of wheat, mostly just because of the way that they grow it in America. I think they're doing some shenanigans. They're doing a lot of shenanigans. So the simple fact is, are they different? Highly different. Is one better than the other? In my opinion, absolutely. In fact, there's so much research on natto. It is ridiculous how amazing it is. I don't think you could even compare it to seitan. So if that answers your question. But huge, huge, huge difference. I can't emphasize it enough. Natto's way better. HB says, I thought today's life was going to be on the hydrogen water system. Yeah, it can be. Like I said, I'm leaving it very open. We can talk about that. I just want to be able to answer everybody's questions, but we can definitely talk about the hydrogen water system. HB says, about the hydrogen machine, where we get it, how we use it. So you want to get it from the official place because it is the #1 machine in the world. Many people have not only tried to copy it, they make fake models of it. So you want to get it from the official site, and the official site is called holyhydrogen.com. In fact, if you want a discount code, I believe there's a good code called BITE Health if somebody wants to write it down. BITE, health, all one word. And that's where you get, obviously, the machine that I use. That from all my research, it is not even close. It's actually by far the best machine. It does so many things really well, better than anything I've ever seen out there. And then HB asked, just learned about you and the machine during the recent plant-based summit. You had an interview. Yes, so the hydrogen machine basically has, so if you guys want to know a little bit about it, first thing when it comes to hydrogen, one of the most important things is metal, kind of like jewelry. Metal's super important. I don't believe, in fact, you guys are maybe going to love this story. There was a physician who was testing her blood, and she found out that when she would use cheap jewelry, which is not pure, she would get heavy metals in her bloodstream. And she realized that that was a problem and that she should be using the highest purity of metals. For example, if you're going to do gold, do 24 karat gold. It has to be of the highest purity, pure platinum, pure silver, things of that nature. And with hydrogen, it's that on another level because you're using electricity. So the one thing that the HydroFix does from Holy Hydrogen is it uses a metal that is absolutely pure. It's not plated, it's not coated like all the other machines out there from China, or I would never use like stainless steel. Some people use that. It's a terrible metal to use when producing hydrogen, in my opinion. Most of it's because of the chromium in it, but I've also seen high levels of nickel, just certain things that are just not a good idea. And so that's the first special thing about the HydroFix. And that was apparently very expensive and very difficult to make. They needed help from special industries and some of the best engineers in the world. And then, of course, the metal, they use an expanded metal technology, so they're actually able to expand it even more. It really helps make the best nanobubbles, and nanobubbles is another part of hydrogen that people don't talk about enough. HydroFix makes the best nanobubbles there is, and it has the best membrane in the world. It uses a special membrane. Everybody else is using basically DuPont membranes, or I hate to say this, it appears they try to literally lie and hide the fact that they're using a DuPont membrane. Because they don't want people to know, because DuPont is a very big chemical company. I'm not a huge fan of their membranes. And the Japanese actually a long time ago used them, and after lab tests, they're like, no, we're not going to use this. So they developed their own, and the membrane is part of the high quality of metal, the high quality of the membrane, along with a machine that uses very low amounts of electricity, which nobody's been able to pull that off. They're literally the only company in the world that's been able to figure this out. The Japanese, masterful with electronics. And that keeps the metal in the membrane in such good shape that the machine can make hydrogen for years and years and years and years, where other machines can't. They all start dying because their membranes fall apart or the metal starts falling apart. So hopefully that answers some of your questions. Plus the HB, what else did you say? Okay, let's keep going and we can come back. If I don't answer a question that you asked, you can always ask it again if maybe I didn't answer it the way that you wanted to. Sunny D says, what are some hydrogen protocols for anti-aging in addition to the basic drinking and inhalation guideline you already shared? Well, that's pretty much it. For anti-aging with hydrogen, you just want to make sure to get enough of that water regularly, and you want to make sure to get enough of the inhalation regularly. Beyond that, as far as you can put your face in hydrogen water for your skin, it's actually really good for collagen production. The Japanese discovered that, but just consuming it regularly. There was a really interesting study in Japan they did on this guy. They didn't want him to change anything about his lifestyle. They're able to check your blood. In Japan, they do some really interesting blood work, and they did some interesting blood work where they were able to see what the person's age roughly is. And this particular guy got his blood checked, and all he did was consume hydrogen water. Not even as good as my protocol, actually, but it was a pretty good one. But they were making hydrogen water correctly. That's the good news. He consumed it for a year, and in 1 year, they checked his blood again. He never changed his lifestyle, eating, nothing. Everything stayed the same. His blood was 5 years younger after 1 year. So just using it regularly. Hopefully that answers your question. Shine says, do you breathe hydrogen? You can. You can inhale the hydrogen gas. You can drink the water. The data really shows that both are the best. I actually am the one who created that protocol, and then it was copied by quote unquote scientists who ended up studying my protocols, and they saw that my method worked best. So I like the idea of both, which is the other reason I like the HydroFix. It makes super high purity of the hydrogen gas inhalation, the water, and really, really good. Boldy says, ain't that dressed woman that is a like figure before the storm from your story looking Buddhist, since is it almost triangle shape? We'll go back to that, Boldy. I just don't think that a lot of people want to hear about that right now. I'm not opposed to talking about it, but I think I shared that story already, but is it the shape of a triangle? I mean, I guess kind of, if you want to know that. Let's see here. We'll get back to those things. Ricardo says, Fonseca, Holy Hydrogen don't sell the machine to Portugal. Portugal, you know what? You should contact a guy. There is a guy over there. Email me. Email me at uprising144k@gmail.com, or contact me on Instagram, and I could put you in contact with this guy who gets it to people in Portugal. HB says, yes, thank you. That's great. Eva says, you should write a book of what you eat the most. It would be interesting to know. Well, I mean, I've made a lot of videos about the things that I eat. Like I said, I like to have water in them. I consume a lot of raw vegetables. Look at my smoothies that I like to make. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, mushrooms, a little bit of rice. Once in a while, mostly if I feel that I really need it, I will have some broth. I'm not very often, but I've used certain broths like lamb. I tend to stay away from a lot of other stuff, but lamb, I had it like just once recently, and there are certain nutrients, but I don't like to consume the actual meat, but I do like to get the nutrients that you can use the magic of water sometimes to get some of those broths. There's actual data about that. I'm a data guy, so I tend to follow the data. Okay, Eba says, oh yeah, I have made videos about the things that I eat. A lot of fermented foods, and like I said, all the fruits, vegetables, all that stuff, a lot of that. And I think the big one is ratios and the times that you eat. Shine says, about how many years can drinking and breathing hydrogen add to your life? Well, according to the research, in my opinion, based on the things that I've seen, I think at least 10 years, and maybe more. Probably no more than 20, 25 years. It just kind of depends. And a lot of times I think more about quality of life than the amount of years. But the research does appear to show that it does appear, and it's very preliminary. In my opinion, I'll just say that I think it can prolong life. But the quality is where it's at, in my opinion. I literally would give up, this is crazy for me to say this, but I would give up many years of my life if I was guaranteed super high quality years of life, like 10 amazing years rather than 20 or even 30 years where you're getting sick and hurting and life becomes a little bit of a hell. Okay, been through that. Okay. Sunny D says, for eye health, here we go. Here's a good question. Have you ever used a face mask that covers your eyes and nose to inhale hydrogen. You know, I know that the Japanese were developing one. It didn't seem like it was totally necessary, but yes, I believe that you can write the company and request it. My understanding is that they didn't ever really, they had some prototypes, but yeah, I've seen them where you put this whole mask and you can inhale it. It can get on your skin. It would get on your eyes. It's not the worst idea, but you need to make sure it's super pure. I've seen people putting on goggles and different stuff with hydrogen that I would never do that with. Okay, S.J. Summer says, I am just joining now. I'm having a very hard time finding natto without MSG, corn syrup, and more. I went to 5 different Asian stores. Do you know of a brand that is Japanese that has no garbage? Well, SJ, and then SJ says, natto that they ship. Well, SJ is asking a very good question, and I don't want to make you feel stupid, but I am going to answer the question. Let me go grab it so I can actually show you, because in my opinion, you're literally wasting your time running around looking for what you just said, because all the natto that you were finding, as long as it said it was from Japan, was fine. And I'll explain why. So you guys tell me if this is funny, all right? Okay, so check it out, right? I have organic natto, right? But let's look at the ingredients and look at all the garbage. Look at this. How much garbage is in this natto? It's like, oh my God, like I could read it here. First one is organic fermented soybeans. We already got that, right? But then it says there's high fructose corn syrup mixed with sugar and more high, God, again, high fructose corn syrup, again, salt, sugar, corn syrup, potato syrup, like blah, blah, blah. So all this stuff, and you're thinking to yourself, what in the world? Why would I want to consume that? Well, my friend, I'm going to give you the answer. This stuff is not actually in the natto. So let me show you what you're actually reading. See, when you actually buy it, which you probably never did, when you buy it and you open it, ta-da, there's little packets in here. These are the ones with all those garbage ingredients. The people typically put them on the raw material, like the natto. Do not put these on there. These are garbage. These go in the garbage. That's what I do every time I open them, throw them in the garbage. This is what you consume, okay? So that's, I don't know if that answers your question. In fact, I know if that answers your question, but that's pretty much it. So the simple answer is the natto doesn't have any of that stuff in it. And on this particular one, which I never saw before, it literally differentiated the ingredients. It literally says, in fact, here, let me go grab it. Sorry, put these away again because I want to keep them refrigerated and alive. But if you notice on this one, and I haven't seen this all the time, so it tells you the ingredients. It literally goes and says pack, meaning the little packets. These are all the ingredients in the packets. And at the very top, it just says fermented soybean. That was the actual product. So hopefully that answers that question. And the same thing goes with, let's see if I've influenced. Yep, I did influence the world on this. This is crazy because I used to not say this. Now it's saying the little packets are all these ingredients. And then otherwise it's just natto. Okay, so hopefully that helped you guys out. That's why I'm here. Okay, what else? Next one. Bastian Jameson says, hi, Greg. Let's make a voice up for Bastian. Hello, Greg. You mentioned that molecular hydrogen is amazing for helping the body receive and integrate, a kidney transplant. Would you be able to point me towards those studies? Well, here's, okay, guys, this is always, I hate to tell you this, and this is a little frustrating for me. So I read massive amounts of data for many, 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 many years. And I don't know if it's the hydrogen, but I kind of think so. I have been remembering this stuff almost like a photographic memory. I just remember the data. When I give you the data, I remember reading it. Now, if you ask me to go and try to find it again, then I have to go and do the homework for you. So I have to go and start digging. Just so you know, you guys can easily find that information. In fact, I'm going to show you guys how to find anything yourself. So that way you guys don't have to rely on me. And then that way I don't have to do this for everybody because a million people ask me that same question all the time. So I go to Google, and if I were to type in molecular hydrogen, you always start with that, molecular hydrogen for, let's say, kidney transplant. And what did I pull up? Right away, National Institute of Health. NIH says a novel treatment strategy for kidney disease. And let's see, renal failure. This article talks about blah, blah, blah. And then there's another one from the, this one actually has to do with hydrogen in transplantation, potential application. They have a lot of the data there actually, and more from the NIH. So simple answer is, oh, that's weird. Guys, hold on a second. Hold on, I apologize. It looks like my phone might die. Give me 1 second. All right, here we go. That's crazy. Phone almost died, guys. I thought it was plugged in, it just wasn't working. Okay, let's see here. Somebody says, so hopefully that helps you, Bastian. But basically, yeah, there is data that shows that it helps with organ rejection. And I also saw that it helps with just the organs in general to keep them alive and healthier. And it also helps minimize the risk of infection. And I'm going to be working with some physicians actually in regards to this. I've already been speaking to a lot of them. And but just so you guys know, a lot of people might be upset at this. This is just my own personal opinion. I don't want anybody's organs in my body. I don't even like the idea of having anybody else's blood in my body. I think it's very gross. And I just don't want somebody else's blood in my body. To me, that's extremely intimate. Potentially even bigger than being intimate with someone. It's just one of those things that I'm not a fan of. But I understand people feel like, hey, my organ's giving out. You know, I want to try to survive. I get it, especially if you have kids or a family. Okay, I understand. So, next one. And by the way, I have helped people with failing kidneys and recover their kidneys. I much rather try to recover the one that I have or the ones that I have rather than trying to get a transplant. SJ Sommer says, I did and threw them away. All right, cool. So you throw away those little packets. Sunny D says, great answer for the Natto thing. Oh, that's right. Very good. SJ Sommer says, that was the brand too. So thank you for clarifying. Woohoo, great. Oh, Wes Gordon. Wow, you just made a donation. Thank you. That was extremely kind of you. Gosh, guys, I really appreciate that. I've been doing this for basically free for a long time, and it's been rough. I actually wish that I could accept some money from just affiliate stuff, you know, but I don't do a lot of affiliate stuff because if it was all about the money, I'll tell you one thing, I'd be promoting 1 million hydrogen products, 1 million water filters, 1 million supplements. I probably would have been a millionaire by now. Multi-millionaire, but I guess that's what you get when I just wanted to share with you guys what I use because I'm only going to use the best. I'm only going to do the best for me. Okay, someone says, let's celebrate their first super on live stream. Well, thank you again, Wes. That was very kind of you. Everybody give that one a thumbs up, huh? Oops, let's see. Okay. Wes Gordon says, hopefully this will boost your channel. Well, thank you. Again, super kind of you. Ricardo Fonseca says, thanks, Greg. All right, you're welcome. Sunny D says, Sunny Do, you have recommendations? Oh, do you have recommendations of hydrogen use pre and post workouts? Yeah, what I would personally do is, and it's going to depend how long you work out for, but I like to get really hydrated before any form of exercise. So at least half a liter again, maximum 1 liter. You go do your exercise, you go do your sauna, whatever. That way you don't have to even worry about drinking water while you're doing whatever training you're doing. Afterwards, I like the idea of drinking, depending on how long the workout goes. If you haven't had water for 1 hour, it has to go for at least 1 hour. Here's another tip for everybody. Never drink more than 1 liter of water in a 1 hour period. And that goes for whether it's clean water, not clean water, hydrogen water, it doesn't matter. It's for all water because anything above that starts to strain your kidneys. But if you give yourself enough time, you come back home, you drink some water, you do some inhalation, and that would be really good too. Okay, hopefully that answers your question. Wes Gordon says, since finding your channel and getting the Holy Hydrogen Machine and the water distiller, my energy, health, and more, especially the spiritual connections, have improved. And I'm so happy to hear that because I've heard obviously many of these stories, but I know that it works. I know that clean water is super important. I know that hydrogen is super important. I'm really glad you did find me, Wes. And I'm glad that you're getting those connections. You know, for people who don't really know, and not to go on and on about it, but like, for example, the pineal gland. people don't realize that although it's at the center of your brain, it's not protected by the blood-brain barrier. So it's very exposed. And that's why the things that you eat and the hydrogen itself is, in my opinion, very important for that connection. And it is a very spiritual molecule that I think will be discovered more in the future. I don't think anybody's going to realize that for quite some time. Okay, Pugman. Pugman, that's funny. I like pugs. Stinky but cute dogs. Says, hey, Greg, I appreciate the information you have given out on hydrogen. Thanks, brother. Yeah, you're very welcome. Well, okay, geez, does that answer everybody's questions? If you want me to talk more about whether it's water, hydrogen, anything else, right now would be the time to ask. And then if everybody's done with that, there was some people who was asking some spiritual questions. So if that's something that people really, really want to talk about, we can get into it. But yeah, let's see here. Did I miss anything else? The only other thing I was saying, I mean, somebody wanted to talk more about the hydrogen machine. I kind of felt like I really gave enough information about that, but if somebody wants more details about it, you're also, able to ask. HB said, excellent live stream. Thank you. Well, thank you guys. I always appreciate the kind comments. More than anything, I like when people get results. It sucks to suffer. It sucks to be sick. And obviously Wes was getting some results. And what's the most recent one? There was something I recently got another testimonial about. There's been so many, to be honest, throughout the years. Oh, the recent one was actually, I haven't even posted the video yet. Brain tumor. There is a doctor who is recommending a holy hydrogen machine, and they were working with somebody who has some type of brain tumor. I could look up at what kind it was. They even sent me the imaging, before and after, and so it's really kind of exciting. He's using that technology in collaboration with some of his other technologies. One of them specifically being a lot about hyperbarics, and I believe that that's going to be a really big thing in the coming future. And he wants me to collaborate with him and share the knowledge. Mostly, I've been trying to mostly connect them with Japan, because Japan, they're the ones who have the best information, and so that would be very interesting for everybody. Okay, Sunny D says, I don't need to use a CPAP machine, but considering the benefits of hydrogen inhalation, would it be beneficial? No, I don't know why you want to use the CPAP either. What I would do is, if I were to sleep, I would sleep with if you really want to sleep with the hydrogen inhalation, you can be inhaling it while you sleep. Or like I said, it really helps to do it for a good 90 minutes before you go to bed. So if you're just sitting there watching TV, reading a book, whatever you might be doing, and use some hydrogen inhalation before you go to bed, really makes a big difference in my opinion, both healing better at night, helping you sleep better, multiple things that I've seen. You meant for sleeping. For sleeping? Is CPAP used for sleeping? Okay, hold on a second. This is where let's see here. Okay. Yeah, so CPAP is for sleep apnea, a condition where breathing repeatedly stops and starts during sleep. So, I mean, I guess it's not technically for sleeping, it's for this starting and stopping. You can try the hydrogen for that first and see how that works. But yeah, if you use them together, I don't think that there's anything wrong about that. In fact, it might be beneficial. So, in fact, if you give that a try, let me know. But most sleep apnea, I mean, I don't like to ask certain personal questions, but if you can tell me your height and weight, because a lot of sleep apnea is typically from weight has been the big thing. But I've worked with people who've had it who are not overweight, and using hydrogen regularly, their sleep apnea went away. So I have seen that. Bastian Jameson says, I'm assuming most of these studies on transplants and hydrogen are using medical grade hydrogen that compares to the quality of the hydrofix. Oh, absolutely. That's one of the really big problems with hydrogen right now, is it is a gas, and people don't seem to understand medical grade gases and the purity of them. And there's so much ignorance to it. I think a lot of times they want to be ignorant to it, because if you make it cheap, you make it wrong. And right now, hydrogen is the wild, wild west. And I think in time that's going to change, actually. But yeah, purity is important. And yes, in my personal opinion, I mean, that was the whole reason that the Hydrofix was designed by the guy who made it, because his daughter couldn't use any hydrogen machine. There's no way that she could use tablets or little bottles, or even something potentially like the Axiom, all these other machines that people are talking about. they needed to develop something that was so extraordinary to be able to produce pure hydrogen right there. Because normally medical grade gases are in tanks, and then you just control the pressurized gas. So to have something in your home that's non-flammable, safe, making medical grade hydrogen is highly unusual. I only know of like maybe 3, 4 devices that do it, and they get pretty expensive, and they're all Japanese. All the good ones are Japanese. I haven't seen anything good, and I know all the other ones out there. Um, yeah, but the Hydrofix was like better than all of them, and it was cheaper. Only one of those 4 machines was cheaper than the Hydrofix, but it was not very reliable. It didn't offer hydrogen gas, excuse me, inhalation. It only made the water, and it didn't make the water as good. It was using a pressurized method, which is a different method. Okay, Eva says, thank you for such great information. Have a blessed day, Greg. Thank you, Eva. It's very kind of you. Appreciate it, guys. Sunny D says, after a brain injury, oh, this is another big one. I've used hydrogen for brain injuries. I needed to use a CPAP machine. Because of the brain issues and stopping breathing while sleeping. I no longer need to use the CPAP, thank goodness, but still have the device. Interesting. Yeah, see, for something like that, I would be almost curious because I've worked with people with lots of brain injuries. Hydrogen has worked amazingly well, way better. The funny thing about hydrogen is it's done so much more and worked way better than I ever would have anticipated or thought of. Just like the guy with Parkinson's who's walking, that was bonkers. Like even the doctors are like, how is this possible? Clean water, clean hydrogen, proper usage. We've talked about all this already. And so in my personal opinion, you should, I don't know how long you've been using the hydrogen for. I'd be curious and see if that had any positive effect, because I can see how a traumatic brain injury could affect such a thing as, the breathing at night. And so I think personally, I do think hydrogen would make a big change. And if you've been using it and that's why it went away, that's also very, positive, really great. All right. Okay. Jameson says, thank you, Greg. You're very welcome, guys. Thanks for the thumbs up. I just saw that too. You guys gave me a bunch of them. So appreciate for that. Liliana Breseda says, hello, I've been taking hydrogen and have a list of changes. Well, we definitely would need to know what type of hydrogen. I would like to know the water you use, the protocol that you use, and how long you've been doing it. And ultimately, yeah, the changes would be great. Okay, Sunny D says, thank you. SJ Sommer says, my Hydrofix is due to arrive today. Oh boy, that is an exciting thing. I'm so excited. And then she put, Shilajit, also on its way. Interested in more of your spiritual stories and information. I will probably not do that one today because we're probably going to run out of time here. It's been over an hour. But yeah, it's something that we can definitely talk about more. I've done a few videos. The other thing, if you guys want to know more about the spiritual stuff, usually I suggest to people, you can write to certain channels that do those type of interviews and I can talk more about that stuff. But sometimes I can do it here. It just depends. Most of the people here want to know more just about their health. In fact, here I got that third-party lab test here on water. This one always blows my mind of the things in the water. I bet you there's things in here that you can't even pronounce. And we could look up a lot of this stuff. Like here's one interesting one. Vanadium. You know what? Let's just look that one up. I'm just kind of curious because I just saw it. Let's see. What is vanadium? I don't know if you guys even know what it is. It's a chemical. Let's see. It's, I guess, technically a metal, probably a heavy metal, known for its high melting point, corrosion resistance. Now, it also says it's a critical mineral for energy transition. Blah, blah, blah. So they found that in water, though it says here large amounts can be toxic, of course. They try to use it in some supplements. Here's where I get kind of weary because there is such a difference as organic and inorganic minerals. That's why I like to get my stuff from my food, not from supplements. So that's interesting. I never heard of that one. Okay, let's see here. Sunny D says, what is Shilajit? So Shilajit, you can go to a website called Pure Black, P-U-R, and the word black.com. I think I have a discount code that works there, which is uprising144K. And then let's go, I'm going to go to the Pure Black website right now. And any of their, so here we go, shop Pure Black Shilajit. Just click on that. And I would get the one, they're all really, I like the one that is like a resin. I would just get the White Rabbit one. It looks like the least expensive because I mean, they start adding gold and silver to some of these. And I hate to say it. I don't want to say that it's gimmicky, but oh, the White Rabbit one's more expensive. Oops. I would maybe get the coffee one or the whatever one's about $55. Anything above that, wow. Well, the only one is the coffee one for $55. Their prices have gone up. Well, I guess maybe that's why they have a discount code. Use a discount code uprising144K. And that is for minerals, antioxidants. I believe it even has, let's see, I believe it has fulvic acid in it. A lot of good stuff, but it all comes from plants and from a long, long, long time ago. And because I carbon distill my water, it removes everything out of the water. And it works really perfectly synergistically with the hydrogen. So I really like the way that works. So I don't know if that answers your question about what shilajit is, but you can go look it at the website if you have more questions. I can answer those. Liliana says, more energy, headaches gone, lower back pain gone, and thumb pain caused by my mouse from the computer. Woohoo! Now that is so great, Liliana. I'm so happy for you, actually. I mean, because pain is so debilitating, guys. It's just horrible. And then Liliana says, half a week also using shilajit and pure water distiller. And look at that. Only half a week and 1.5 weeks, Simon. Oh, so a week and a half. I mean, that's not very long and you're already getting great results. That's awesome. And then as Chase Hummer said, my machine just arrived. Okay, make sure to watch video 426. That's a big one, guys. Watch 426, 337, and 388. Those are really great videos if you have a hydrogen machine or just got one. You want to make sure to treat it right. If you learn how to treat it correctly, it will be extremely reliable. That's one of the issues I believe that all the hydrogen machines, or most of them out there, have. It'll be reliable and it'll continue to make high levels of hydrogen if you maintain it right, where other machines, you know, in my opinion, they just won't. Okay, guys, well, if you don't have any other questions, I'll give you guys a moment here. Otherwise, I'm going to get rolling too. I just wanted to answer everybody's questions. If you have more, I try to do these lives periodically, but it's been a while. This one was kind of a special one for everybody. And you can email me too. And if people really want like a direct consult, we can do some of that too. But yeah, and I like combining natto with the hydrogen because of the way that the hydrogen gets the blood to move. I believe it's video 68. And so that's really awesome. And then you thin the blood out with the natto and you open up the ghost vessels with the hydrogen. That combination is powerful. Okay, Ricardo Fonseca says, one more time, thanks a lot. I will email you. Oh yeah, about Portugal. Very welcome, guys. Thank you all for watching. I'll give a few more seconds. Otherwise, I'm going to let you guys go. And Leilana says, have an awesome evening. Thank you. You're so welcome, guys. Thanks for joining today. And yeah, I guess I'm going to let you go. Actually, I'm going to put this away. And I'm going to give you guys a second just in case there's any last questions. Otherwise, I'm going to let you go here in probably 10, 20, 30 seconds or something. Okay. And for those of you who enjoy drinking coffee, you know, green tea is a really good alternative. In fact, somebody was asking about anti-aging. Green tea, make sure it's from Japan because I've seen lab tests of green tea from different parts of the world. And the Japanese one was definitely the best, way less pesticides. Like it wasn't even close. It was dramatically different. Here's one too. Green matcha, and notice it says right here, 100% Japanese. They make good stuff, guys. It's not just because they're Japanese. Whenever I see the lab reports, it just backs it all up. Their hydrogen machine is definitely way above and beyond everybody else. Wes says, so when will you broadcast an episode dedicated to spiritual stuff only? I don't know. Maybe the next one I'll do that. I haven't scheduled anything, but maybe I'll just put spiritual stuff. I'll put spiritual hydrogen or something, and we can talk about that. You can ask one question if you want about that right now, but I didn't want to take too much more time. It's getting a little late. Eva says, always get great answers from you. All right, great, thank you. And then it says, Catherine Austin says, quick last question. All right, do you have any recommendations for someone who has had general anesthesia 3 times in the last 3 years? Absolutely. What I really like to do, and I've talked about this already a lot. One, get clean water in you because hydration is going to be really important when you've gone through anesthesia. Hydrogen, hydrogen, hydrogen. Hydrogen is so important, in my opinion, before and after anesthesia. and the inhalation of it, the drinking of the water, basically some protocols that you're going to see on video 337. Again, I would watch 388 if I were you. Those two things would be really, really important if you've been through anesthesia. That would be my opinion. Hydrogen is so powerful that it ends up being kind of that simple. Eat clean too. I like antioxidant rich food, and obviously hydrogen is antioxidant rich water. And yeah. Eleni says, thank you so much. Evra, some smiley faces. All right, guys. I think we're good here. Thanks again. I'll see you guys on the next one. Unless you want me to give you a few more seconds, but I think I answered everything. Guess I can start taking this thing off here. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. See you guys next time.